greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated to. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free. What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
You are tuned in to another episode of the Red Pill Hardcore. As always, I'm your host, V. And today on the show, I have a guest who is a hardcore activist and is kicking butt, getting things done, which I like. It's not, you can't call yourself an activist if you're just spouting off the mouth and nothing's being changed. But this lady is definitely making a difference in the world, and I'm honored to have her on the show. Her name is JoAnne Denison, correct?
Close enough.
JoAnne Denison. Okay. And you are a elderly rights activist, correct?
It's disabled and the elderly. They also victimize people who have disabilities like Down syndrome. I also do some medical kidnap. You take your kid to the doctor, and next thing you know, they're in a group home. Same thing for the elderly. They strip them of their assets, throw them in a nursing home, and then they murder them off. And I try to give counsel and assistance the best I can to people who are in that situation, who are suffering. They have no place to turn to. All of the attorneys will tell you, oh, there's nothing you can do. This is the way it is. No, it's just going to happen, and I can't help you. And they pretend to be your friend, take your money, and then they do absolutely nothing. They don't go to court. They don't tell the truth. And, of course, my big thing is to get people to go to court, challenge the judges, and tell the truth, and save these people from being thrown in nursing homes against their will, group homes against their will. We have the foster home syndrome, right? They kind of take your kids away, and the state makes money by selling them to other parents. And it turns out the new homes are a horror show and they're abusive. The court system is a disaster. People can't get their files. They can't get help from the public defenders. The public defender's office is a disaster. It is a horror show from A to Z. And the only reason why we know this, as you and I, Victory V, have talked about, it's really coming out now on the internet. If there's a problem, people are going to find out about it. They're going to band together, and they're going to demand that their elected officials do something about it. So I get off complaints to the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Office of Inspector General, all the different offices. I know you've lived in the United States most of your life, and you know that people have to have help preparing these complaints. The complaints have to make sense. They have to be well written. You have to send them off to these agencies well armed, and I help people do that, as well as help and direct them in court. If they already have an attorney, we make sure the attorney is not sloughing off, and he or she is doing their job for the money. And if they're not going to do the job, I tell them, go back, get your money back, and fire them. And, file a complaint with the ARDC, which is the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary in Illinois. Of course, you know that I don't have a license anymore as an attorney, and that's because I was blogging about corruption. I don't know if you've seen my blog. It's got all the stories that are absolutely truthful. They came in there and they had a kangaroo court proceeding, and they ripped my licenses from me. Mm-hmm. You like that one? You can relate, right?
Do. Well, the way I understand it is this this bar association, it's like a boys club. You can't practice law unless you are a part of this club, okay? You got to pay your dues to be a part of this bar association. And if you're not paying your dues or you're not playing ball, then they strip it from you. And I don't see how justice could be done being a part of a group of people who all have to have the same. Well, it's like these Freemasons. They're not going to stab each other in the back. They're all killing us for their benefit. Yeah. So to have someone actually trying to serve justice, I mean, I know it's like having a public defender, and it's like he's just in there just to be there. He's getting paid by the same people as the prosecutor. It's really one-sided. So whenever you have someone actually trying to serve, when you try to have someone trying to serve justice, then you get picked on and probably chased out of the courtroom. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I don't know that so much because that type of corruption isn't overt. It's not obvious. Mm-hmm. And let me go back a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people that don't understand how a bar association operates as regards to the licensing board. They're separate. Okay, the Supreme Court of every state licenses attorneys, and they have a board to grant you a license or take away your license. That is wholly separate from the bar associations, which is like your ABA, American Bar Association, the Chicago Bar Association, the Illinois Bar Association, Women's Bar. Those are social clubs. They have nothing to do with this other arm over there. Mm-hmm. They make sure their members have insurance, they have vacations, they give seminars, they help you with your CLA. But a lot of people blame the American Bar Association, but the American Bar Association is a social club. It has nothing to do with the corrupt judges up at the Supreme Court who are elected. In Chicago, all of our judges are funneled through one man, Alderman Edmund Burke, and his wife sits on the Supreme Court. Oh, that's like no surprise, right? And then on top of it, Daley, he used to work for Daley. It's the same old machine. Daley would pick the judges. We actually have newspaper articles of him complaining about how it's so hard now because so many people give him information on how to slate the judges. There's one man slating all the judges for Illinois. There's something seriously wrong there. And then we found out for a fact, this is where it gets even scarier. If you want to get a judgeship in the circuit court of Cook County, you have to bring a gym bag with $150,000 in cash to the DNC, Democratic National Chair. All right? What's the quid pro quo for that? You understand quid pro quo, right?
Oh, yeah.
I give you money. Where's my payout? Where's my money back? And it's even worse for federal court judgeship in Illinois. It's all run through the Democrats. I know in other states it's run through the Republicans. So I'm not telling you it's only Democrats, okay? It's not just Republicans. They all have the same system, and it's all corrupt. It all gets in these horrible, horrible judges. Then we go pull the property records on the judges, and we find out that the bribes are coming through the banks and the property records. So if you have a corrupt case, that is the first place to start. Get on that instant check bank or whatever you're doing, find all the property of that judges, then see how they're churning the mortgages. One person takes out the mortgage, the other one pays it off. And it's all over the place. And the judges are not making decisions based upon the pleadings in the paper in front of them. They are making decisions on who put some money in their bank account. And the government's keeping track of that, so why can't the taxpayers see that?
Well, you know what? It's called the Excelsior sites. I know you can find out not just judges, but anyone who owns real estate property, and this sort of thing. But I have my hacktivist friends out there, my family, who I've been challenging lately to dox this person and dox that person. You can, through these doxes, you can see where the money is. You can see that these people are rolling in bank. Somebody can potentially be seen, laundering money and this sort of stuff. So it's...
Well, this isn't laundering. This is just bribes. When somebody's paying your mortgage, that's a direct bribe. Okay, laundering is where the judge then goes, like the Kids for Cash story. I don't know if you know about that. That's when the judge creates a maze of corporations. They have a storefront, and with all this extra cash they're using, they put it through the storefront, and they said the storefront created some kind of a profit, and then they put it in their bank account. That's laundering.
Oh, yeah.
I never do it. Because you know what I had to do? I had to watch Breaking Bad to actually understand the process of laundering money. And here I am. I have 12 years of college, and I wasn't exactly sure. Now, they talk about laundering money, and I know how to do laundering, but I didn't realize how you have to do it. So
right.
See, we don't think like they do. And they probably were born knowing how to launder money. But for you and I, we're like, what are they talking about, right?
I've had to learn all this stuff because it's this judge or this person, it doesn't matter who it is, it has too much power. Why do they have all this power? And then you find out, through the doxing, through searching the Excelsior sites, who they're connected to. You have all these corporations that go into these obscure limited liabilities that you can trace it all the way down to some lodge. For example, Lodge 36, and it's just, and then it dead ends there.
So, yeah, that's the scary part. That is the scary part.
Yeah.
Because you'll never get anything out of them, right?
Right.
And then they claim to be a not-for-profit, so they're hiding everything. Now, the IRS can get, the first thing you do when you see that, what we do now is we tell everybody report it to the IRS. Because the tax rate on criminal income is 50%, and it's 2% a month for not reporting it and not filing that return correctly. So that's how we've had some success there. We've gotten some tax liens on some of these crooked people, not judges yet, but we're working on it. Because the IRS should be right on their butts. Nobody else seems to care. We take it to the Department of Justice. Right 219 South Dearborn in Chicago, I send people over there. I said, talk to everybody, make a stink, tell them they're murdering people. And I'm sure that's why they love me. I am known. I mean, people call me up. I was in court the other day, and you know how you would help me with this or that, and they go, somehow the judge knew it. How did the judge know that? How did the judge? That's some courtroom thousands of miles away from where I'm sitting in Chicago. Yeah, I helped the person. I said, report this, report that, report that. I didn't even do a pleading or anything. I just said, tell your attorney to prepare this. And somehow he knew that. Now, how did they know that? And the person swore to me they didn't tell anybody. And the judge in this state said, which I'm not admitted to, that he had blackballed me in that state, so I could never appear pro hoc vice there or never apply for a license. Like, really? I care about the state. I don't care about the state.
Not just blackballed, but blacklisted.
I was blacklisted in a place I've never been, I don't care about, and I'm never going to go there. It was just too funny. And I guess, I'm just thinking of the word McCarthyism right now. Is this what we're living in? Is McCarthyism? Somebody stands up and tells the truth. And who am I? You know what? I'm almost a 60-year-old mother of 4. Who am I? I'm a nobody. I don't have any money. I don't have any wealth. And yet they're coming after me like I'm somebody important. It kind of cracks me up. I run a blog. I didn't know that I was such a threat to these people who are powerful. They have money. They have property. They have an entourage. I don't have anything. I have a bunch of people where they murdered their parents and stole money in court. That's all I have. I don't have anybody powerful. So it's kind of funny, right? Isn't it?
Well, we are the leaders of the people that we want to help. I mean, we have victims. I have victims of targeting, and that's what my show is all about, really. Targeted individuals, and targeting of a person can come in any shape and form. There's psychological operations, psychological warfares, including scams and different frauds, which is seething and frothing in our courtrooms. And so, I mean, I want to go into this because I've had CPS activists on my radio show who talked about, the issues with the CPS court, because it's not a real court. It's a court for rent. It's not backed constitutionally. CPS courts, I mean, there's no real constitutional common law there.
All right. We're not going to get into that because, I kind of know the court system. I kind of know how it's set up, and I know there's this huge gloss, and I'm moving my hands down. There's a huge gloss of this isn't constitutional, this isn't right, and like you were talking about the bar associations are a club and they strip your law license. In reality, it's actually over here. here, okay? So there's a lot that goes on about this court isn't real, this isn't constitutional, and all this other, and you read these cases, and I'm like, just sigh, because that case didn't say that at all. So I hope to really kind of bridge that divide there a little bit, because I know the courts are there, they're set up, they're constitutional, the judges are elected, okay, maybe they're fudging with the election results, and I know how they do that too, if you want to get into that. And that's basically voting the nursing homes. You're not going to win against who's ever slated. Because they take all those drugged and drooling people now that they shoved in nursing homes. You got a community of 1,000 people. You could have 500 people sitting in a nursing home, and they're going to have their DNC rep or their Republican rep walk into that nursing home, take a stack of absentee ballots, and this should all be illegal. It's all voter fraud, and they just check off whoever paid the right person. You know that? You've heard that? You didn't know that, did you? It's a whole system.
Well, I mean, I know, but what I was getting to is how the real important thing here is, I just want to talk about the bigger picture for the moment, and then I want you to climb the ladder with me and to get to that bigger picture, because I've had these CPS activists and I've studied this stuff. The money wasted. Okay, so you have a couple who have a custody issue over a child. Throughout this court battle for custody of this child, some people end up losing their jobs. Having to sell a house, having to, they have to give up something. And when it all boils down to is that this child has his birthright taken from him. Any inheritance he would have been owed, or would have been given, had his parents not given it all up in a court battle fighting for him to the state or whatever. And so,
well, to the attorneys involved, that's where it goes. The attorneys are the courtroom vendors, and a lot of them are dirty and corrupt.
And so we see a parallel with the elderly. So I just want you to walk us through that.
Well, I see it from both ends. I help court custody cases, and I help the elderly. But basically, the elderly is a whole system. And the elderly is an incredibly organized cottage industry of disparate licensed professionals, from doctors and nurses to hospital boards to the police to all kinds of individuals that are tied into the system. So a person can be targeted if they go to a financial planning. Somebody will find out that they have a paid-up house, a paid-up car, their house is worth $1 million. Boom, the next thing you know, you've got somebody in there petitioning for guardianship, and maybe they lost a little bit of memory, but they're going to be declared incompetent, shoved into a nursing home, the house is going to be sold. If there is someone appointed from the family to be the guardian, it's going to be somebody who is a psychopath in the family. We can stop a lot of this. They can test for psychopathy with a PET brain scan now. The only valid scientific test we have, and yet we're not testing all of our judges, our nurses, our doctors, our police.
Our presidents.
What?
Our presidents.
Politicians. Let's add politicians in there. I'm not going to mention any names, because that's a whole downward slope. We'll never get out of that one. And I try to stay away from that, because that has nothing to do with what we're doing today, except for the fact that we write to the president, we write to the Congress people. I send them my list of 35 people murdered and their estate stolen in probate all the time. I fax it, I email it, everybody's gotten it, local, state representatives across the entire United States. I faxed it to the Senate Subcommittee on Aging. I have faxed it to the Congressional Subcommittee on the Judiciary. Never get a response. I said I'd love to come and I'd love to do a hearing on this. I'd bring in real victims. We have to do something about this. I get no response. Nobody wants to touch it. Mainstream media will not touch what I am talking about. All right? So I have victims. I write books with them. We get out there and we sell them locally. We pitch them. We get them on the internet. NASCAR, the National Association to Stop Guardianship Abuse, is a wonderful organization. Probate Sharks, which is really kind of funny, they're a wonderful organization. but they've all suffered with loved ones in probate, and they've been victimized. And entire millions and millions of dollars in estates can disappear in just a few years because these people are nothing but sharks. They're horrible, psychopathic people. And in fact, I had a woman, and it's not stopped with my blog, no matter how much grief I give the judges about don't do this, don't do that. We just had a 94-year-old woman named Joyce Brockmere. She was murdered in probate. The daughter went to court every day and told the judge she needs emergency room treatment. The judge's response was it's 3 days to get an emergency hearing. This judge is in charge of elderly people. How could you say an emergency is 3 days, right? They get sick. They need treatment. The nursing home isn't doing it. They may have a conflict of interest. The state, they did. What happened was Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago overdosed this woman on heparin. They were in league with the nursing home, which was, I don't know, do you know who Sformies is and all that mess that's come down? Do you recognize the name of Sformies?
No.
All right. This is where the disconnect is. Phil and Morris Sformies run nursing homes across the United States. They built Medicare and Medicaid billions of dollars. We're not talking millions, we're talking billions every year.
With a B.
So,
billions.
right, with the B. So they recently indicted the son, who is Phil Sformies down in Florida. Ken and I had, this is another guy who writes with me on the blog, had been complaining up a storm. Why didn't, you went after him in California, got rid of, you told him to divest himself, he tried to sell it to a cousin or something, and the cousin still took significant stock. Why did you let that happen? These guys should be in jail. So they went into Florida, they threw him in jail, and they indicted him for $1 billion down in Miami-Dade, okay? Because there's $1 billion, that was just for 5 years of stuff they could find, right? That's $1 billion. Why doesn't every person on the street know this? Billion, right? Shouldn't that be huge news? Should you personally know that name is Sformies? They run nursing homes where they kill people, and they do it all the time. And what nursing home has anybody been into where the residents don't say they want to go home and that is never investigated? Why aren't nursing homes investigated? Why is there no police force dedicated right to the nursing home who goes and says, do you want to go home? And the person says, yes, well, let me look into it. Why can't they go home? Why can't we get them a caregiver so they can go home, stay in their home? You want to live with Sister Sue? No problem. Let's investigate that. Why aren't you at home? Who tossed you in here against your will? Right? They violated their constitutional rights. Why are they sitting there?
That's what I want to say.
9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
they sold the home and somebody got the money or the home or something's going on.
So they're stuck there.
Yeah, so they're stuck there. They're getting drugged. It is illegal to use psychotropic drugs and chemical restraints in nursing homes, and yet studies show that they're still being used to the rate of about 80% of the residents in nursing homes. How is that going on? When the FDA has said these drugs are dangerous for anybody under 21 or anybody over 60 or anybody with dementia. How are they getting drugged like that? And all those doctors...
Mind control.
It is. It's the bad pill. Whatever the bad pill is, they're doing it left and right, up and down. So with the elderly, it's even worse because they drug them because they want to go home. They know they have civil rights, and nobody's investigating that. So they drug them even though the FDA says you can't. You got one arm of the government doing one thing, the other arm of the government doing another thing. And the elderly in our country are suffering. It's not like it is in Europe. In Europe, they actually have whole little villages and communities. They made them to look up like the 1950s. They take care of their elderly. And in here, we drug them. We put them in nursing homes, which are really slums and ghettos for the elderly. How do you describe them as anything else? If you're a prisoner, you have a sentence. You get out, right? These people never get out of guardianship.
No.
They're drugged. They're kept inside. They can't go out. They can't see their relatives or friends. They always have isolation orders.
Yeah.
It is the absolute worst, most horrible story you could ever imagine in your entire life.
Well, I've got to ask you. I've got to ask you, did Obamacare make this worse? Was there a difference before and after Obamacare in this?
No, Obamacare has nothing to do with it. Just as everybody talks about HIPAA. You realize that HIPAA does not protect the consumer? There is nothing in there that says that the hospitals and doctors and nursing homes have to keep your information confidential. It says the opposite. It says that insurance companies can trade your information without your consent and knowledge. And why do they do that? So they can jack up rates. And then they got the mass media to come in and say, this is to protect the consumer. It was a huge lie. You cannot sue under HIPAA for breach of confidentiality. There is no such provision. It's 3,000 pages long. And there's one page at about page 1100 that says the insurance companies can trade data. That is scary, very scary. They should have to have your consent, right? But not anymore. And HIPAA was passed long before Obamacare. Obamacare, the problem with Obamacare goes right back to the nursing homes, and that's because 70% of healthcare is fraud. You know, chemo drugs don't work.
Right.
They charge $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. All natural cures are much better. That's what they use in Europe. And we know that midwives are a lot cheaper. You can significantly cut the infant mortality rate if every woman's assigned a midwife, right? They can have the doctor at the end. Nobody cares. But when women get pregnant, they need a lot of extra help. They should be assigned a midwife up until, they're ready to deliver. And if they need a little bit more work, you might need a doctor there. And doctors are dangerous. All kinds of things they have done is just fraud. I can remember they put that fetal monitor on you, and I read up, it doesn't do anything. And then when it's dangerous, the doctors get to do more. They tell you, the baby's in heart distress, which is crap. They don't know anything. And then they want to do C-sections. It's all a fraud. It is coming out. There is going to be some huge... Look at what the insurance company executives make. From the top, 20 make from $10 to $40 million a year. There's only one honest insurance company out there. The CEO makes like $300,000 a year. The rest make from $10 to $40 million. Health insurance. That is a big fraud. Why don't we just add it all up? Obamacare has nothing to do with this problem. The people have to become aware. We have to have oversight committees, and we have to make sure this is not occurring. Hospitals, as far as I'm concerned, from hospitals to insurance companies, they all have to be what's called a benefit corporation or not-for-profit. We don't have nearly as many problems in nursing homes that are not-for-profit. That's the church nursing home, the synagogue nursing home. So what you take out the profit motive, what happens is the quality of care goes way up if you have to put a person there, and the service that they get is much better, and the harm to them, the lawsuits and all that go way down. The incidents go way down. The danger of a nursing home goes way down. Now, it's still a dangerous place, and we need more laws that say that the guardianship court must choose a private, clean home over a nursing home. That has to be a law that's put in place. As long as the person wants it. Now, that's the other thing. They go out there and they interview these people because the person typically doesn't come to court, or somebody will keep them from coming to court, right? And so that all has to be recorded. I mean, we've got GALs in Chicago that are going out and saying it's okay to have the OPG, Office of Public Guardian, who are a bunch of them, they're horrible. They just murder people. The Office of State Guardian is the one that called on the one lady and he had her murdered. She got to the emergency room after going to court almost every day. Judge finally said, yes, you can get your loved one to the nursing home. Then the Office of State Guardian, who's supposed to be this person's guardian, who never shows up in court. They're like, that one, no, we don't care, Stein, so what? They never show up in court. And then what happens is they tell the emergency doctor not to treat, which is completely illegal. We have EMTALA. Do you know what EMTALA is?
No.
The Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act is something that everybody should know. Once you get to a nursing home, if you're elderly, poor, whatever you are, they cannot dump you on the street without stabilizing you and treating you. So what happened to that poor elderly 94-year-old woman? We sued under the EMTALA. All right, we're getting ready to
First things first, it's important to remember that Minds.com is still in beta. Now, despite this, everything works great. It functions, it's stable, the discovery is great, there's no algorithm manipulating what you see, there's no content filtering, no censorship, no shadow banning, there's none of that to worry about. This is an ideologically neutral platform. Certain features like monetization are still being rolled out across the site, and the video player and video uploader are still to be improved a little bit more, but overall these are fairly minor issues. Upon first blush, Minds is a kind of mix between Facebook and Twitter, but
Think there isn't much difference between emergency food companies? Sadly, some companies skimp on serving sizes, and you don't always get the filling meals you'd expect. We bought competing products from recognized brands, so you can see for yourself how their serving sizes stack up to Legacy Premium on similar dishes. Don't be fooled by the serving size scam. Legacy not only gives you more food and bigger servings for your money, but Legacy is also non-GMO and tastes amazing.
And yes, we are back from commercial. I want to apologize to the viewers of the show right now because you won't be seeing Miss JoAnne Denison for the first half of the show because the computer system got hacked and a whole bunch of file not, the format doesn't match and all this and that error stuff. I don't feel like dealing with it. So, it's cutting edge information, cutting edge show, everything's cutting edge, and these people want to play on my vanity, as far as having a perfectly cut show, and hey, this is guerrilla media. I don't have to have everything perfect. So you guys just witnessed having a photo of her, but I have her in video now. So you could wave and say hello, so that they know I'm talking to a live person.
Hi there, I'm here.
Okay, so we got cut off with this obvious attack on my show here, but I want to go into what you're saying about something that gets said on my show a lot. It's just a reoccurring theme on my show, and you said a phrase, oversight committee. There's no oversight committee. I've had people talk about, their persecution by intelligence agencies, police, whoever within the government, and there's no oversight. Now, do you truly believe there's no oversight, or could the oversight just be even more corrupted? And the reason for all of this domestic criminal government activity?
Well, honestly, we touched on it a little bit. If you come up with an oversight committee that can be elected, it can be done anyway, And if they are all tested for psychopathy, I don't think we're going to have a problem. I envision that one day, I would hope that instead of electing one, we have so much duality right now, too much duality in our government. We have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they're not getting together to do what's best for all the people. And I think eventually we'll probably go to a management committee that manages the president. You see what I'm saying? Because there's just too much power that is polarized in one person, and that doesn't do society as a whole any good. It's all polarized. So the guys out there and we're seeing it now, showing off, doing this and that to cater to the outliers, and we've got to stop doing that. I think that one day we will be seeing valid, critical oversight committees for a number of government functions. We have the 3 branches of government, one of which is the executive or the president, the other one which is Congress and the Senate. Now, they have oversight committees, so I don't think they need one, and they're a group, a body of people that are working and voting together, but maybe a bipartisan oversight committee could help them too. And then finally, we also have the judiciary, and I think everybody agrees that there's something seriously wrong with the judiciary. I know with respect to the federal district courts, which, how many courts do we have there? Hundreds, right? And there have only been something like 10 judges impeached in over 120 years. That's absolutely ridiculous, because we know that there are a lot more judges out there with a lot of problems, a lot of conflicts and bribes, and they need to be removed from the bench. And that oversight committee, I would hope, would be able to delve into these issues that you and I had talked about. The corruption, the laundering of money, passing of bribes. How the heck did Kids for Cash, I don't know if you're familiar with that case. I could do a quick synopsis of it, but how did that happen?
Is this Hillary Clinton, Kids for Cash?
We're talking about the 2 judges in Pennsylvania that got taken out for 28 years apiece.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you don't know about it? There's actually a movie on Netflix. A lot of publicity was done on it, and that's how they got rid of 2 extremely corrupt judges who were getting paid, making money, had invested in a juvenile detention facility. They were also laundering it through a maze of corporations, and this judge put every single kid in jail, and he ran on a platform. So in other words, this one kid got into a food fight at school. They were put in the juvenile detention center. It was a horrible place, too. Not a place you want to put a kid. Certainly there were some serious crimes committed, but the vast majority of the kids, 90%, were told, number one, by the judge to waive their right to a lawyer, that they should waive their right, their parents should waive their right, which of course you can't even do. I mean, a kid can have a lawyer, and I'm not even sure they can waive their right to a lawyer. They always have to have the lawyer standing there and saying, if you need any help, I'm here to help you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
A child from the age of 12, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, can hire any lawyer they want, and they don't have to have their parents' lawyer. They don't have to have the public defender. They can go out there and find a lawyer that they think is good, okay? But this Kids for Cash judge was getting all of the kids to waive their rights to a lawyer. The few lawyers that did show up were either in on it or they were just, I don't know, they had lobotomies or something. They're standing there in court. They're throwing almost every single kid into this horrible, horrible juvenile detention facility. And it's the sad thing is it ran for 6 years before anybody did anything about it. 6 years. Kids' lives were ruined. They committed suicide. And it's interesting because on the way out of the courtroom, this is a famous video clip that everybody should watch. One of the judges walked out. They were Callahan and I forget the name of the other judge. And I've got it on my blog. It's up there. The whole you type in Kids for Cash, lots of articles. How did they keep on running for so long, throwing all these kids in jail, and the judges were making money off of it, and it's a very interesting story, because at first, they cut a plea deal with the judges that they only had to do 7 years. Well, what happened was the judges then went out, not on the advice on their lawyers, obviously, but these guys had such huge, bloated egos, they were telling everybody that they were wrong, they had done nothing wrong, and the federal court judge found out, and he took that 7-year sentence and he made it the maximum. So, if you go into court and you cut a plea deal and then you publicly go out and tell everybody you think that you were wrongfully convicted, Oh, thank you. That will earn you the maximum sentence with the judge. No trial, no nothing. And that's why they both went down for 28 years. The one judge that was convicting all these kids, throwing them in a horrible place for minor offenses, or not even, I mean, kids posting stuff on their Facebook, or they were posting it on other social media, and the school administrators would complain, you know, McCarthyism all over again. They're hauled off to this horrible facility. And the problem with juveniles is they don't really get a sentence. They're not really criminals. A lot of people forget that. If you're under 17, you can either get off with no sentence or just with your parents or whatever, which is the way it's supposed to be. Or if you're thrown into the juvie detention facility, it can be forever. Because it's kind of like old people. You're supposed to rehabilitate this person, make them better, and then you release them. It's supposed to help kids. They're supposed to get a loving, supportive environment and therapy in school. And none of these kids got therapy. None of them got school. They didn't get anything. A large percentage of them committed suicide. And getting back to the video clip, you can watch the one judge, Callahan, I forget the name of the other one, they walk out the court after getting 28 years, and this woman came up, and I believe she just chewed this guy out because her son had committed suicide from being in that place for a couple of years, and it was just absolutely horrible. These kids end up with forms of PTSD. It was just horrible. But how did it go on for 6 years? That's my point. How does this overt corruption that you can see every day walking in and out of the courtroom, how does it go on? That's my question. It's horrible. So Kids for Cash is a horrible, horrible story, ending with 2 sitting judges in Pennsylvania going to federal prison for 28 years each. And with both of those judges saying that really, soon after they had cut a deal, saying they didn't think they did anything wrong. What are they, just like blind? They were having all these kids, all their parents, waive their rights to an attorney, and the attorneys that appeared before them wouldn't say anything on behalf of the kids. It was serious, serious corruption. And then every time they sent a kid to the facility, they got a dividend check. How corrupt could a system possibly be? And of course, do you know the story of Dr. Fine from California?
No.
Oh, this is another thing you ought to check out if you're looking into court corruption. Dr. Fine is an extremely elegant, highly educated, Harvard School, an amazing attorney. He's still alive. You can call him. He's so nice. He's just the most nice person. They stripped him of all his law licenses, and I'll tell you some of the background that really got him into the biggest trouble. I don't know if you remember this. I didn't ask you how old you were, but a long time ago in California, they would actually shut down the entire state of California because California didn't have enough money to pay all of its bills. So they would just shut it down. I don't know if you remember that time. Do you remember that at all?
No, not at all.
That's where California became a big joke. That's where the fruits and nuts came in. But what was happening is, if you actually studied what was going on, they weren't paying all the state employees. So the DMV and this and all the services that people need were not getting paid. However, the state legislatures and the judges were getting paid. Tell you something? All right. So he went into the San Francisco court and he filed an injunction. Number one, the state of California was not allowed to outspend the money it actually had in its coffers. All right. So that took care of that problem. You don't hear about California shutting down anymore, and we don't hear about them issuing script to state employees. Can you believe that? They were actually issuing script to state employees. That's disgusting. How do you pay your bills if you're an employee? You got to pay your bills, right? That's the law.
Right.
And, well, it's a law that an employer has to pay an employee, that's for sure. So we don't have that anymore, but out of that, of course, the state legislature and the judges were furious about that. And then on top of it, it turns out that at one time in California, when he got a hold of this, he found out that 98% of persons who had been arrested were being convicted in LA County. So he looked into it and he found out that the judges were getting kickbacks from the prosecutor's office every time they convicted somebody. Again, blatant, overt.
Sounds like Wilson County.
Corruption.
It sounds like Wilson County in Texas. 98% conviction rate.
Yes, okay, well, somebody's got to get in there. Some do-gooder lawyer like me, but they took away my bar license. We talked about that a little bit. Has to go in there and stop it. That is not the United States of America. That is not the Constitution. And there's tons of case law on that. The judges cannot take any kind of bribe or favor of any kind when a case is decided one way or the other. It's completely corrupt and completely illegal. And why the people aren't up in arms and aren't out there tossing these bums out of, my mom used to say, toss the bum out. You know, I thought that was so funny. You know, she was such an activist. And I still remember all that to this day. If they're not doing what they should, we need to get rid of these people one way or the other. Of course, the first place to go is to report them to your state OIG, Office of Inspector General. Report them all over the place. The state's attorneys will do nothing. The Department of Justice, but you got to get together with your friends. You got to get together on the internet, name names, and tell the state's attorneys if they're not going to prosecute, they should hand their salaries back, which is what I always tell them. I write to them. This is when I think the ARDC published one of those letters. That was in my complaint. I guess I'm too harsh in demanding that if a prosecutor or the clerk of court, our Dorothy Brown clerk of court, by the way, is very busy selling jobs and promotions. And they still haven't booted her out. And yet the proof was turned over to the ARDC in the form of a tape, which I don't think she knows that we have, where she is selling jobs and promote. That's our clerk of court. That's why we get nothing done. That's why the files are still corrupt. That's why the people are surly when you walk into the court system. You know, they paid for their jobs. One person called up my lawyer friend and they said, I'd like to join in the lawsuit because I paid $20,000 to Dorothy Brown for a job and the job only lasted 6 months. You like that one? And then she came back to me and she wanted more money. That wasn't our deal. What is going on in our court system? And the FBI knows about it, and they've known about this for like 2 years in Chicago. How embarrassing is it she's still sitting in that job? Who is protecting her? I want to know that. So Dr. Fine, getting back to Dr. Fine, what's going on with Dr. Fine is not only did he pull that little stunt, which I'm sure pissed off a whole bunch of people because, you know, they wanted to just spend, give money to their friends and their family and all that, you know, the government friends and family program, and they didn't, you know, and if they ran out of money, just shut it down, don't worry about it because I'm going to get paid anyway. Well, he shut that all down. You know, it's totally disparate. So then what happened after that, he found out about the little deal, like you were talking about, in the with the LA County's office, prosecutor's office, and the judges, and how they were sending the judges money every time they convicted somebody. He shut that down. So then what happened is they threw him in jail. They threw Dr. Fine in jail. Well, actually, it was even more interesting. The LA Marshals, this is an interesting story, went out to New York because that's where Dr. Fine lives and that's where he practices law, right? He would fly out to California and do these other, you know, do-gooder, light worker cases, right? He's going to save the world. So he's got a strong bent on saving the world and doing justice for all these people. And they arrested him in New York. There's no warrant. There's no court papers, right? They arrest him in New York under gunpoint, take him back to LA County Jail without any paperwork whatsoever, right? Stuff him in an LA County Jail in the SHU, right? Solitary housing unit, the most awful place you could ever stay, right? This guy is elderly. He's like, I think 68, 70, like that, right? So he's in there for a year, and I understand what happened. Do you know Janet Phelan? She's a famous activist. She told me this story. Five of the most powerful rabbis in the country flew out to the LA County Jail and demanded that the warden release Dr. Fine. Also went to the presiding judge and demanded that Dr. Fine be released because he was being held without a warrant or any charges. So he finally got out, but they stripped him of all his law licenses, and I think he had law licenses in something like 20 states because he had represented so many people, many of them who are very famous. But he's done a lot of good. He still doesn't have a law license, and he's actually a really nice guy. So if anybody needs any corruption help, yes, you can call him, make a donation, whatever you can afford, and support this guy, because he cleaned up the state of California. Now, let's get back to the really scary part of this. A lot of those circuit court judges who for years were taking bribes, and of course Dr. Fine ruined that little cottage industry, criminal industry out there, right? Somebody published recently, they did a survey, and they said about half of the judge sitting on the appellate court and several of the Supreme Court judges in California had been part of those systems, and they had been taking bribes. My question is, why are those judges sitting in those positions? Because if you take a dime as a judge, you should be booted off the bench. Am I right?
Absolutely.
They should have, as my friend Ken Dukowski, he writes on my blog, he's an activist too. As my friend Ken says, they should have the morals of Caesar's wife. And of course, we all know what that means. If his wife wasn't perfect, he would have her boiled in oil or whatever. But this is how our judges should be. There should be no question of their ethics, morals, and integrity. And there should be an oversight committee for their financial transactions. An oversight committee that can actually pull those bank records and see who is making deposits. Because you know now, when you make a deposit of cash, you have to produce an ID, and the teller writes it down. Now, that's because so many of the Big Ten banks were caught laundering drug money. We all know about that, right? Their big business is illegal drug activity. But the other part about it is now we can use that information to go after these judges that are obviously corrupt and boot them off the bench. And oh, by the way, while we're doing that, we can go back to California and get all of the judges off the bench everywhere who had taken one dime from the LA County prosecutor's offices. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you get to do it. Am I right?
Right, exactly.
They should be gone. They did it. That's it. You're corrupt. You're not going to fix this. This isn't going to leave your personality suddenly. You're never, ever going to regain the trust of the public. It's gone. Where they really belong is in prison for what they did. Although I think the statute of limitations is long gone for taking bribes. But maybe that's a law they should change just for these judges. I don't know. But I am very upset about that little thing. And Dr. Fine continues to suffer through this day. They took away my law license. There's another attorney here, Ken Dukowski. He would publish for the blog about all the cases where they murder people and steal their assets. The judges look the other way. There's no jurisdiction. The person wasn't served with a summons and complaint, but they guardianize them anyway, and they take away all their rights and their property. That's completely illegal, because if there's no jurisdiction, it means that all of those court orders, and these cases go on for years, 5, 6 years, are void. They're void ab initio. They were void from the beginning. And yet, we complain, and of course they take away our law licenses. And I'm not talking the bar associations, I am talking about the Supreme Court's arm to discipline attorneys. This arm of the Supreme Court, Illinois Supreme Court, gets a budget of $17 million a year. And if you are currently ripped off by an attorney, unless you whine and moan and groan and make a big stink, if the attorney took $10,000 from you and didn't return it and didn't do the work, they're supposed to reimburse you. They have a client reimbursement fund, but they won't pay it unless you make a huge stink. So I gotta encourage people, file your complaint, file it numerous times, make a big stink, and tell them that you're going to sue them and the attorney that stole the money at the same time. Then you might see it trickle back to you. But see, they don't like it when I say things like that. Sue the ERDC. Sue the judges.
Well, I love watching videos on YouTube about, how to sue your judge. And there's only a few of them. There's not very many, but...
Well, here's the thing. If they are doing it by putting false liens on their property, I don't agree with that. But where a judge knows or has seen, like there's one famous video of a woman who was groped. She was groped by the security guard and told to take off her blouse. The judge watched it and said nothing. That judge should be sued. She was right there. She could have stopped it. Right? Am I right?
Right.
That's not harassment of a judge. That judge actually is in control of that courtroom. She has a duty to make sure that the law is being followed and people are being kept safe. And she abrogated that duty. She should have a fiduciary duty, the highest duty of care, to make sure that everyone is in the courtroom is safe and not that her male security guards are groping female litigants. That's absolutely preposterous. So when you're talking about people going out and just, quote, harassing judges, I don't agree with that. Yeah. But if the judge actually did something wrong, you have the right to file a lawsuit against them. That's not a frivolous lawsuit, and that's what the court system is for. You have a right to file a bar complaint. Go to the IRS. If there's money involved in it, obviously the judge is wasting the taxpayer's time. Maybe he shouldn't get paid for that day. Go report him to the IRS. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But these crazies that go out and, you know, they destroy the judge's property, they slander the title to their homes and property, all that. No, we're not going there. We're going to do it the way you're supposed to do it, which is sue the damn judges.
Well, and so how do we have people avoid the situation of having, you know, their parents, you know, in this elderly this
all right. Right. I'm going to tell you. All right, we're going to talk about that a little bit because that is very important. A lot of people will go to an attorney and spend $1,000 or $2,000 to put the house in trust, get a will, a trust, power of attorney, power of property, power of attorney for property, power of property for health care. There's also living wills, and there's a Healthcare Surrogacy Act. All of those are great. Please go out and do that today. If you don't have it, even if you just turned 18, go out and do those things. They're up on my website. They're for free. Do them. Appoint somebody you like and somebody you trust to manage your affairs, because we never know if we're going to become disabled. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Somebody's got to take care of the house. Somebody's got to take care of whatever needs to go on. Appoint your friends. Explain to them that doesn't mean you get to spend my money. It means that you are going to account faithfully to my heirs and legatees, all right, or my children, whoever. They have to do an accounting once a year, all right? So that's your first layer. That's what every attorney is going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you that too, because even if you get into a probate situation, and they routinely terminate and they break into these trusts. But they know they're not supposed to do it, and they know that they're probably committing a felony, everybody that's doing it. And eventually you're going to be able to sue them for the felonious activity, and that's what I'm doing now, okay? It will happen. It is coming, I promise you, all right? But right now, if you are targeted for guardianship, and if there's any inkling that somebody's targeted you and you might have a temporary guardianship, what they can do without notice, without summons and complaint, the best thing for you to do is take all of your assets, sell your house to your friend, and then get the assets in a bank offshore that doesn't respond to U.S. court orders, all right? It's offshore. They don't respond to U.S. court orders. And then you lease it back to yourself. So you're going to take that money and you're going to pay it back to your friend a little bit every month, okay? And they can take out a loan or whatever they need to do. But you need to get your money out of that state. The next thing you're going to want to do with that money is buy an RV. A woman actually did this. She knew about probate. She had read the horror stories, and she was pretty smart. And she's in California, and I have it on my blog. And she's one of the few people I know that got out of guardianship. And this is what she did. The San Francisco court targeted her for temporary guardianship. She went right away. She divested herself of her house. She got all her money offshore. She bought an RV, and she traveled around. And every state, every city she went to, she'd go to the local psychologist, psychiatrist, and send back a letter to the judge. I am competent. Dismiss the guardianship. Well, she wasn't in California. She's traveling in an RV, so they can't find her, right? And eventually, after about a year and a half, they did dismiss the guardianship. But they got a judgment against her for $30,000 in attorney's fees, which I'm sure she hasn't paid. But this is the one thing she wanted to do. Her husband died. She got $3 million. She's like, I'm not going to spend $3 million. I have 2 kids. They don't have a house, and they've got their kids, and I want to give them each $1 million now, which everybody should have the right to do, right? That's her decision. She's competent, and her kids need the money. And why wait until she dies? When is that going to happen? And she's like, I live frugally, and my house was paid for, my car, I'm not going to worry about this. So she gave each of the kids $1 million, and that's why they went after her in guardianship, because the guardianship would eat through that $3 million in no time.
Right.
And she wanted to make sure her kids got it. So that was her little story. One of the few people I know that have gotten out of guardianship. Other people, I think Karen Federighi on Facebook, she is now in Mexico, so she got out of it. All right, she was a nurse. She had a master's in nursing. She was teaching 2 classes. She was working her jobs, and her sister knew that she was going to get an inheritance from an uncle that died. Now, Karen Federighi's sisters were kind of like ne'er-do-wells. They never did anything with their life, and they're jealous of her because she put herself through college, through nursing school, got her RN, got her master's degree, and she goes out and she teaches and lectures because she's a really, really good nurse. So they're all jealous of her. This is down in Florida, which is one of the most corrupt states in the U.S. It's just a hotbed for corrupt guardianship. So they cocked up some doctor to say that Karen was incompetent. They take the statement. Now, Karen had never met this doctor, so I don't even know how they did it, right? But you can pay people off. Possible. So that all you do is you take a statement from a doctor, you send it to a committee in Florida, they declare the person incompetent, and that's it. You're never going to get out of it. Judges won't listen. They have professional guardians who are tied into the system. Everybody's tied into the system. So then they had Karen Federighi holed up in a hotel because she refused to go to a nursing home where they drug her because she knew the whole system. And then what happened after that, eventually she escaped to Mexico. And that's what I'm currently advising people. If you're targeted for guardianship, make a beeline to Canada or Mexico. I don't know what you do or how you do it, but this is not going to be happy for you down here. And they can and they will put you in a nursing home, like Mary Jane Tykert. That was the lady that walked into my office who didn't know I was doing this. And they'll drug you until you are incompetent, and then they'll give you the psychological exam, which of course you will flunk. And then they'll have you in guardianship, and they will drain that estate with attorney's fees after attorney's fees after attorney's fees. And there's even more scams they pull. I mean, the scams in guardianship are endless. They've got the police tied into it. They've got the hospital boards tied into it.
No, I would be happy to go through all of those with you, and we can do as many shows as you're willing to do. But for this episode, we've run out of time. So I want to.
Oh, I didn't know we had a time limit.
I got an hour show.
Okay, we didn't talk about that. I still don't know much about you, but I'm glad that you're doing these shows. I do a lot of TV shows. And people can find me on the internet and on Facebook, and I hope they do, and I hope they find you too, and I appreciate you doing this, okay?
You have a website, right? I'm going to put that in the show.
You can, I'll send you the information, and then when you post the video, which I assume you're going to do on YouTube and
the TV network will have it.
Vimeo, whatever you're going to do.
Yes. Okay. Well, again, I thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you. We can talk about this more when we've signed off, okay?
All right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. JoAnne Denison, and please contact her. This is serious stuff, okay? The elderly being taken care of. We have the government trying to stick not only one hand in our pockets, but their other hand too. This greed is killing people. It's destroying families. It's got to stop. It's got to end somewhere. Let's keep the government out of our pockets. Okay.
Let's keep the government honest. Let's even start there. Honest.
That's a stretch.
Do your job.
That's a stretch. But
well, we're working on it. We're working on it, right? We're exposing the crimes and the corruption, and we're telling them you have to do better because we, the people, are demanding it. We're tired of this crap.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right.